This is a demonstration of the graphic user interface for the Blockbuster Enron video on demand service. And what you see in front of you right here is the screensaver page. Screensaver is called that because it works sort of like a computer screensaver insofar as after about 3 minutes of inactivity on the part of the user, this screen comes up. You'll note that there's 3 logos on the page. There's one for Blockbuster, there's one for Enron, and there's one currently for N-Cubed, although that will, in the actual service, be replaced by a logo from one of our broadband distribution partners. Anyway, on the left side of the screen, you will note that there is an arrow-shaped cursor, and that is what the users will manipulate around the screen to perform certain functions. Right now it is arrow-shaped, and as it moves over one of the graphic elements, it will change into a hand shape, and then the next screen will come up. So if I take the arrow and move it over, boom, it briefly turned to a hand-shaped cursor, and now it's back at an arrow-shaped cursor. This is the main screen for the service, and across the bottom you will notice that there are some selections. Currently account and help, although in other places in the interface there is a button in this area of the screen which is called main, and one on the far right screen which would be labeled as back. Across the right hand side of the screen there are 6 buttons which start out with just in, most popular, categories, browse titles, browse ratings, and my rentals. Anyway, the situation is that the buttons are selected by moving the cursor over the button area. As the arrow is moved across a set of the words, you'll notice it changes into a hand shape, and a box comes around the text. Most popular, categories, etc. And that will be the area that the users will select in order to choose one of the functions. So let's go down to the account area. This area of the screen, which currently has a Blockbuster logo in it, will be used for various promotional things. And the Blockbuster logo in the upper left-hand corner is the persistent graphic that you'll see on all the pages. If we go down and select account, we selected it and notice it turned briefly to red, and then it comes up to this page. You'll see again across the bottom of the page the persistent back, main, help, and ultimately account button that would be there, except that we're on the account page. And over on the right hand side you see 2 buttons, one that says set up account, one that says purchase history. If you select set up account, which we will do, again notice the cursor changes to a hand. We select it, it turns red, page changes. We have a new screen which says master pin, clear, continue, and across the bottom you see the 4 components of the main navigation screen. A master pin is what the main user of the service enters in. It's hard to see, but there is a green line around this box, and this is one of those exception to the rule kind of areas, insofar as if you drag a cursor across clear or continue or any of the other areas, you'll note that it changes into a hand shape but does not have a box around the text. Anyway, the box around this area now is kind of the functional hot area. So it's looking for somebody to enter in some information. Normally what would happen when you first get the service turned on, you would set up a master pin number, and this would be a number of your choice. Since we've already got one set up here, I'll show how it works. Essentially what happens, and it doesn't matter where the cursor is, but essentially what happens is the user will go and select numbers off of the remote, in this case 1, 2, 3, and 4, which you'll see are all, they don't show up as numerals, they show up as asterisks. So after you've entered in the correct number here, you have the choice of either clearing this by hitting clear, and all that does is it eliminates the text, or hitting continue. So if I hit clear as an example, all it does is clears out the numbers. We're going to go ahead and enter those numbers again in 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to select Continue. Continue brings us to the next screen, which is the Setup Account screen. Here is where the consumer will either go and set up information or change information. And there's a special case when you first set up the account, which basically has to do with what you'll see on the screen. But basically, what you do see on the screen is the ability to set up or change the master PIN, set up ratings restrictions based upon changing these lock icons from red to green. Green meaning that you'll notice it looks like an open lock, that people can go and see those movies, or red meaning that they are restricted from viewing it. The purchase PIN is the PIN number that is assigned to a child or whomever the master PIN wants to set it up for, and it allows them to view certain movies and to also have a certain purchase restriction set upon their monthly spending limit. In this particular case, you're going to have to take my word for it, but the master PIN number here is 1234, and the purchase number, I believe, is 1111. What we're going to do is we're going to go in here and change a couple of things. So I could essentially go in at this point and hit clear. Unfortunately, what happens when you hit clear at this point is that everything on the screen is erased, or should I say everything, all the numbers are erased. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to change a couple of things. I'm going to go in by dragging the cursor across the monthly spending limit and change that to $150. I'm also going to go in and I'm going to change the purchase PIN number to 9999. And I'm also going to go and let whoever it is watch PG movies. So I'm going to change that red to a green. And so I have the option, again, if I've made a mistake, to hit clear, or I can go ahead and hit save. I'll hit save. I should get a screen that confirms that my account information has been updated, and in fact it has been. Now across the bottom you have the four main buttons like I mentioned before. One of them is back. Back, generally speaking, will take you to the previous screen and the previous screen before that. In the area of setting up the account button, though, because you don't want people to break in and possibly change the code, when you hit back, it goes all the way back to the master PIN area. So I have to go in and enter in my master PIN number again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hit continue. And it brings me back to the setup account thing. So you'll notice that it has saved this information. The PG-13 now is green instead of red, and the monthly spending limit is $150. The purchase PIN number is 9999, although this doesn't show up anywhere that a consumer can see. They basically will have to write it down or something to that effect. Let's go ahead and look at some other aspects of this. I will just generally leave this particular part of the screen by saying that there are a few areas here which are being worked on, and so in terms of trying to find exact information about how to work with this setting up or changing any of these pieces of information, you should refer to any written documentation, the latest documentation you have, or ask the supervisory person involved with this. Let's look at the help feature. The help feature, which again is one of those buttons that is on every page. You select help, and you are presented with a help and information title, and you'll notice that there's a large area in the middle of the screen with textual information on it. In this area of the screen, you'll notice it says page 1 of 29. Essentially, this means there are 29 screen areas, 29 screen pages with information on it. The two buttons on the right-hand side, which look like triangles, inverted and so forth, are essentially navigation buttons. If I click on the down button, it will go to the next screen. But now it's page 2 of 29, page 3 of 29, 4 of 29, etc. I can click up and go to page 3 of 29, and anyway, there will be pages of information that will present answers to commonly asked questions and give information about how to set up a set-top box, how to deal with some navigational issues. This information is changes and will continue to change. It may differ from one BDP to another, but essentially this is an area that the end users can go to get information about commonly asked questions. And at this point you can use back, and I believe it will go, nope, it doesn't go back to the previous page. It actually goes back to the last major screen area. The back button is something that we're trying to get consistent, but at this point you may find as you're talking to some of the consumers that they say there's some inconsistency, and we're aware of that fact. Okay, we have talked about help. We've talked about account. Let's go back to the main page. We use a system called Macrovision to protect our movies so they don't allow people to record them onto a videotape. So unfortunately I'll be unable to show you any of the actual video, or I may put up a little bit so you can see it, but basically what happens is consumers are not allowed to videotape off of their screen onto a VCR. On the right hand side of the screen, again, there's several categories. Just In is basically, as we click on it, it is a listing of the most recent additions to the service. Again, you'll notice the same kind of navigational scheme with the up and down arrows and the page X of X sort of paradigm. As you drag the cursor across the movies, you'll see the box coming across each of them. You could select one of those movies, and we will do that in just a second, but I want to go through and show you, again, on the right hand side, the Just In is, again, just the movies that have just been added to the list. Most popular will be a list of movies which are basically those that are most commonly rented from our service. Categories, we'll go ahead and select that because that will change these menus. Categories are the categories of movies you would see in a Blockbuster store. They include action, comedy, drama, family, and special interest. And again, when you click on one of those, for instance, drama, you'll get a listing of the movies, again, in alphabetical order. Right now, there are not many on this list because this is just a demo list. So I'll discuss what these buttons mean in just a second when we get to Browse Title. So let me go back one page. Back 2 pages, sorry. We're back at Action now. All right, one more, categories. We're at the major category area. Well, I'm not sure why we're getting back to Action. Nevertheless, the back button area has got some inconsistencies, and we are working on it. But we'll go to the main page, because I do know that would get to where we want from there. All right, we're back to here. I want to go to Browse Titles. Browse Titles allows you to go through and look at an alphabetical listing of all the titles we have. Again, across the bottom of this area, you'll note 0 through 9, A through D, E through G, etc., etc. And this is a listing, or is an ability to go and allow a user to skip past a number of movies. We're assuming at some point we'll have hundreds of movies listed on here, and you would be able to see all those movies that start with P or start with S or whatever and move forward. So right now, we've only got a handful of movies. So if we were to go and select one of these movies, we'll select The Lion King up here. We're going to get to a page which has information about that movie. In this case, there's a title, actors, director, category, etc. And what occurs is that the consumer can either go ahead and rent the movie at this point, or they can go and view a trailer that might be associated with the movie. So let's back it up one screen and choose another movie. We're going to choose The Matrix. The Matrix, very similar, title, actors, director, etc. The Matrix also includes more information about the movie. More info basically gives just that, more information about a particular selection. You back it up one screen, and we can choose to, at this point, rent or view a trailer on it. Now again, I'm going to put it on for just a second. You may see a breakup on the screen. First off, because the movie is restricted, we have a screen that asks for a master PIN entry. We'll go ahead and enter in our master PIN number, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hit continue, and we should see, there it is. You'll see for just a second. I'll only hold it on for a moment. Okay, there is a screen there which has a movie playing on it. The breakup you see on the screen is part of our macrovision protection. I've hit stop, and I've come back to essentially what is the area that describes the movie. If I wanted to, at this point, I could go ahead and hit rent movie, and that would go ahead and allow me to rent the movie, and it would give me the same, it would ask me for the same master PIN information as before. So let's back up to the main screen again. Okay, we've gone through browse titles. Browse ratings brings up a listing of the MPAA ratings, in which case you as an individual can search through movies by a certain rating, G, PG, PG-13, etc. You can also have a screen that has ratings information, which explains each of the ratings. Let's go back to the main. You'll notice as I'm dragging the cursor around that the box follows the cursor. One of the common things that we expect consumers to do is to enter in information and get the wrong screen. As an example, right now you'll see that I have the word account has green around it, a green square around it, while the cursor is on the help button per se. Now the reality is that if I were to select this now, I would not get help, I would get account. It isn't until I drag the cursor over the top of help that the help function can be reasonably accessed. Again, drag it back to account. There's the area between the two words that people may be selecting in. So again, I have it on account. If I hit enter now, instead of going to help, it goes back to account. Go back one screen. We're back to here. Okay. See, back to main. My rentals is an area that allows consumers to see what movies they have currently got rented. You'll notice here we have one title, The Matrix. It expires to the user on 12/5/2000 at 12:24 p.m. Essentially, all the movies have 24-hour rental periods, and this allows people to go in and check what the status is on their movie, as well as if they select that movie. In this case, I'll select The Matrix. You'll come up to the information screen, and you'll notice that the screen now has the words resume and restart instead of rent movie. Essentially, this tells me as a user that I have the option of resuming the movie from where I left it off, or essentially restarting the movie from the beginning and view the entire thing. Back to the main screen. Essentially, this kind of covers the primary functionality of the GUI. This is a work in progress. There are several inconsistencies which we are aware of, and we expect others to be discovered over time. Our intent is to go and correct these inconsistencies and add to the functionality as time goes on. I would refer you to any the most recent documentation on this service to have listings of any of the known consistencies, and also to provide information about properly accessing such things as PIN numbers and other selections. So thank you for your time.